Over the years, it has become very clear that the idea and image of beauty is a changing phenomenon. Today I will discuss the current standard of beauty and how we got to where we are today. My name is Untitled. Welcome to another episode of Body Diaries, which is a series on my channel that explores the ideas of beauty, body standards, and challenging what we have been conditioned to know. So before we can attack what we know to be the beauty standard of 2021, we need to take a step way back into history to where the first expression of an ideal body was given. We are going back to 24,000 to 22,000 BC. The earliest symbol of an idealized woman was shown in the Venus figurines, and specifically the Venus of Willendorf, which were found in Austria. In this era, the focus was based on fertility and an image that promised a high ability to reproduce. The characteristics determining this were large breasts, a full and healthy looking stomach, as well as wide hips. Long after the Paleolithic era was the Greek era, and this is where we really start to see the idea of beauty being emphasized. This is shown in the art of the time. The belief of beauty at the time for a man was that one's exterior build and beautiful body was direct evidence of a beautiful mind. So it meant that if you were beautiful, you were a good person. However, for a woman, this was the opposite. Being beautiful was seen as a curse, as being beautiful was tied to being evil. This was expressed in the phrase kalon. Evidently shown in the sculptures, the ideal woman possessed full breasts, pale skin, and a not quite flat stomach. And she was viewed as a rather disfigured version of a man and did not have to face the same standards and level of pressure as he did. Early resonance for artists was an era of rebellion. This is where we see them start to move away from religious views as well as modesty. This is where we start seeing the switch of women's bodies and appearances move from being tools of fertility to objects of lust and attractiveness. Here we see artists such as Raphael yet again paint features of women with soft and curvy features. Corsets, corsets, corsets. The Victorian era is the one closest to what we are experiencing currently in 2021. The menu consisted of a cinched waist, still full-figured, and tight garments that would give an hourglass illusion. The bigger the bosom, the better. That sounds familiar. This is when makeup also became more popular. In the time, women with a full face of makeup was viewed as a reincarnation of the devil. As a rebellion, Queen Elizabeth smacked some makeup on and put on a signature red lipstick, and this quickly became a symbol of class. The paler you were, the higher your status, because tanner people symbolized the poorer people who worked outside. So, have you ever heard of the Gibson Girl? A mere set of drawings by Mr. Charles Gibson that would change the standard of beauty forever. The tall and slim look in the late 1890s became the new ideal as they were flooded in mainstream magazines. And from the 20th century, a slimmer, more athletic and boyish look was in. For the first time, curvy and fertile was out and thin was in. The 1920s are when women started to become more observant and aware of their bodies, because prior to that, only the rich could afford full-length mirrors, and bathroom skills had only just been invented. This is where the obsession around weight really began. In the 30s and 40s, World War II took place, which means that rationing happened and thin was not the look anymore, as it was seen as too close to starving. Here's where the illusion of an hourglass pops through again, and through women's clothing and padded shoulders. Miss Marilyn Monroe was a symbol of the 50s and early 60s, as the US had recovered from the war and they were richer than ever, which led to celebrations, indulgences, and a fuller figure. The fuller figure was even more propagated by its prevalence in Hollywood films. The sexual revolution, when sex began to be more normalized, is what is said to have led the Tuggy era. Because sex was no longer preserved for procreation within marriages, fertility was therefore no longer in style, and it was no longer in interest. The 70s screamed anorexia, as diet pills and starvation diets began to be more targeted to women. Fitness was not about becoming stronger and healthier, but rather it needs to be as small as possible, which led to the aerobic craze that infiltrated the 1800s. The supermodel era encouraged women to be thin but also fit, to have an athletic figure but still have a little curve. She had to be tall, just not overpoweringly tall. The late 60s to 90s was symbolized by a smaller, more boyish physique. Skin was getting tanner, hips got smaller, and the desired physique was leaner and taller. The supermodel era reigned and produced people such as Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, and Cindy Crawford. We see the size zero craze carry into the 2000s and influence the ideal look for women. During this period, we see more musicians set the trends. Women such as Beyonce, Britney Spears, Jessica Alba, and J-Lo set the tone. The look was thinner brows, smaller facial features, hair extensions, and in the late 2000s, Botox. Everyone wanted to look like a Victoria's Secret model, and no one was shy about it. In the late 2000s, breasts, and particularly larger breasts, were what people cared about. Boob jobs became largely popular, and plastic surgery was something that was only accessible to celebrities. You were either Paris Hilton Barbie or Beyonce Bodylicious. From 2010, as we all know it, the ideal body once again changed. The reign of the Kardashians took the world by storm, and boy oh boy did they do a number. For the first time, features that were associated with being more predominant in black women were being praised, just as long as they weren't on black women. Features that were previously made fun of, such as larger lips, bigger butts, and darker skin, were now made popular. You no longer had to have a larger bust, but also needed to have the perfect bust to waist to butt ratio, and suddenly artists such as Nicki Minaj were more palatable. Unfortunately, the more racially ambiguous you looked, the better. Weight loss programs, fit teas, appetite suppressions, waist trainers, and BBLs became promoted without question. Filters that started out as fun now breeds insecurities. It all just screams toxic. When will it ever be enough? Although it has taken forever to get here, we are finally seeing a resistance. Movements such as the body positivity and the inclusion of able bodies are speaking up, although we still have a long way to go. In the same breath, we don't need to wait a decade to see people who look like 95% of the population in media as desirable or just present. Media has an unmeasurable role in how we see ourselves and has the power to change the narrative. Brands have started to listen, and we see it. Savage X Fenty and Fenty Beauty are brands that have taken the initiative to represent the day-to-day woman. The standards for women and young girls are detrimental to one's self-esteem, or lack of it. It has been reported that 74% of women are unhappy with what they look like, and in an Instagram survey I did, 87. This is an epidemic, but why is this not being given the attention that it needs? Capitalism. Because the beauty industry cares more about the money that it makes than it does about you. Has it occurred to you that every few years and sometimes few months you find something new to feel insecure about? Selling beauty? No, selling insecurity. Glass skin, full lips, no cellulite. Because where there's insecurity, there is money. Guess who came up with the word cellulite? Take a guess. It's Vogue. Half a century ago, the word and concept of cellulite did not exist. Why? Because it's something that does not exist or need to be cured. It was first said to be an abnormal buildup of fat trapped in immovable pockets under the skin, which are gel-like or toxins. So in a nutshell, beneath your skin is a layer of fat which is held by fibrous tissue which forms a net. Sometimes fat cells get clumped together and pushed through the holes of this netting, which thus creates visible bumps or dimples on your skin. Something that affects between 85 to 90% of women. Without the constant reminder that this problem exists, there wouldn't be anything to worry about. Sell them the insecurity so we can sell them the solution, right? The standards set for women in general are unreasonably high compared to our male counterparts. Not only are we expected to suck it up and take the bare minimum treatment, but we're also expected to be the all-in-one solution to a man's world. So what I want from you today is to question everything you've been told and conditioned to believe. Question yourself, do you genuinely feel uncomfortable in your body because it affects your physical health? Or is it because you just don't look like the season's demand? Would you honestly be happier if you had a different feature? Or would you rather just find something else to be insecure about? We need to take the wheel and decide for ourselves what we deem to be beautiful. And we need to be celebratory of every body shape, every body size, and every way that a body comes in. Because as much as we say everybody is beautiful, we need to believe it. Educate yourself, understand the way social media works and the way people interact with it. Understand how you can be manipulated. I mean, the algorithms are there for a reason. They give you the content they want you to see. They want to sell things. So always be aware of what you're consuming and the effects that it's giving. Always remind yourself that social media is really a true reflection of reality. This will also help you become more compassionate with yourself, as you know that it's not all real. A lot of it is fake, and that's the reality of social media. Finally, make things easier for yourself. Find things to love and appreciate about yourself, because even the people who set the standards cannot even maintain them. Like, so we know the problems that social media bring to us, but now the question is, what can be done about this? I have a list of a few things that could be changed that could help consumers and the day-to-day gal. Brands need to change, not because it's trendy, but because it's what its consumer actually needs. I think what would also be good is a trigger warning or just a note that commercial pictures have been heavily edited, just to let people know that what you're seeing isn't exactly what was behind the scenes and everything that took to get this specific picture. You need to see more normal looking people, especially without the stereotypes that they come with. Give normal looking people main character roles. That's it. Thank you so much for joining me on this history and walk through beauty standards, and I would love to know what you think of this video. Let me know what you learned, let me know what you didn't know before, and give a few pointers of how we as women and how we as people can become more positive and have a better outlook on ourselves and each other, because we are only as strong as our weakest link, and we need to be empowering each other because we cannot do this life thing alone. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you did get this far. Comment I don't know, hashtag BD, hashtag body diaries. Yeah, just so I know who got till the end. I'll leave my social media at the bottom in my description box as always. If you need to talk about anything, my DMs are open as always. And don't forget to love yourself, treat yourself with love and kindness, and love other people too. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me on this season of Body Diaries. I will see you in season 2, baby. Season 2?